I learned to disappear long before I ever figured out what being lonely really meant. Some kids are loud and glittery, like fireworks on the 4th of July. I was fog. Not dramatic, not tragic, just they're soft, quiet, easy to overlook. Growing up in Seattle, where the sky always seemed one shade away from crying, maybe it made sense that I blended right in. But it took me years to realize being invisible isn't peaceful when you don't choose it. It's humiliating when the people who are supposed to see you, most your family, seem to have misplaced the ability completely. My older brother Jacob was the golden one, the kind of boy who could sneeze and get praised for proper technique. He was captain of whatever team had a captain, straight teeth, confident grin, that whole American boy commercial aura. My younger sister, Victoria, was sunshine. Everyone adored her. I mean, everyone. Teachers, neighbors, the checkout lady with the pink hair at Safeway. They'd coo over her freckles like they were fragments of starlight. And then there was me, the tangle in the family photograph. The one who always blinked when the flash went off, who could never figure out how to talk without feeling like she was walking barefoot across broken glass. My mom never said you're an embarrassment, but she didn't have to. It lived in every pause after she listed my siblings' achievements. Jacob's practicing with the state team, Vic got into advanced dancer, and Brielle's reading again. Then the conversation would neatly pivot before I could open my mouth. My dad didn't even bother with the act. His focus just slid past me, like I was furniture he regretted buying but couldn't return. At first, I thought maybe something about me just made people uncomfortable. Later, I realized they trained me to think that. I can pinpoint the year it stopped being confusion and started being truth. I was 15, Thanksgiving, standing in the hallway while the grown-ups drank cheap wine in the kitchen. My Aunt Patricia's voice carried easily. She never whispered in her life. Honestly, you should have left Brielle at home. She makes everyone tense. The laugh that followed was sharp enough to slice skin. Mum's response leaked resignation. What can I do? She's my daughter. Those 6 words gutted me more than the comment itself. She said them like an apology. After that, the exclusions sharpened. Oh, you didn't get the invite? It must have been lost in the mail. Didn't you check Facebook? The date changed. The lies always cushioned with fake sympathy. By the time high school ended, I wasn't expecting to be invited anymore. I learned silence was safer. Invisible was easier. I fled to university 2 hours away and studied pharmaceutical analytics. Mostly because numbers didn't frown when you spoke awkwardly to them. By 22, I had an entry-level job in a consulting firm, a studio apartment that smelled faintly of espresso, and exactly one friend who remembered my birthday. I pretended it was enough until Damien. He walked into a biotech conference like he was its accidental headline, tall, ridiculously calm, wearing sneakers with his suit. I was taking notes in the back when he gave a presentation about early cancer detection methods. Everyone applauded politely, already texting about revenue projections. I was the only idiot who raised my hand and asked about survival rates and low-income demographics. He looked straight at me, smiled in this unguarded, oh thank God someone cares way, and said, that's the right question. We spoke afterward, then for hours more over lukewarm conference coffee. He made me feel like the pieces I'd been told were too awkward. My curiosity, my bluntness, were actually strengths. Within a month, we were orbiting each other full-time. He found me interesting, not tolerable, not quirky, interesting. When he proposed 2 years later, I ugly cried on the kitchen floor for reasons he didn't understand yet. He thought it was about love. It was also about finally being chosen. I didn't invite my family to the wedding. Honestly, I half expected to feel guilty. Instead, I felt relief. When Mum called days later, her voice simmering with guilt and self-importance, I almost laughed. How could you exclude us, Brielle? She asked, as if decades of proof didn't answer that. I reminded her of every party, every reunion, every photo I was missing from. "I'm just returning the favor," I said before hanging up. Damien hugged me afterward, rubbing my shoulders like he could polish away the leftover pain. Our wedding was tiny, filled with warmth instead of performance. 50 people who actually liked us. Natasha, my loud, fearless college friend, was my maid of honor and made inappropriate jokes during the vows that broke any leftover tension. Damien's sister, Sophie, brought her baby who spit up during our first dance. It was perfect. I didn't have to shrink to fit anywhere. Those first years were a blur of caffeine, ambition, and whiteboards full of impossible plans. Biosynth Diagnostics Damien's dream turned both our lives into an unglamorous marathon. I handled strategy and regulation because bureaucracy is just a puzzle with worse lighting. He handled science. We built something that worked, really worked. When the FDA approval landed, we stayed up until dawn drinking cheap champagne out of mugs. The headlines started appearing. Young couple revolutionizing cancer detection. My family stayed silent through it all. Ghosts that only existed in my memories. I convinced myself I didn't care, until the day curiosity knocked wearing my sister's lipstick. Yuki, my assistant, poked her head in. "There's a woman in the lobby who says she's related to you." My stomach twisted before she even said the name. Victoria. Perfect Victoria, standing in our minimalist lobby, designer bag dangling like a trophy. She tried to greet me with sugar. "Wow, this place. I had no idea you were doing so well." But desperation flickered under her mascara. Her husband, David, had lost his job. The mortgage was collapsing. Just a little support, Brielle. Family helps family. The irony stung worse than any insult. I told her precisely how much family had helped me all those years. Her eyes hardened. "Money's changed you," she whispered. "No," I said. "It just made me visible." "You hate that." I thought that was the end, but my family's need is a hydra. You cut one head off, 2 more show up. Jacob arrived next, playing the concerned brother card with award-winning sincerity. Only this time he had a prop. "Dad's sick, stage 4, pancreatic cancer. We need your connections." That word connections hit like a slap. Not love, not sister. Connections. I wanted to scream that those connections were built with nights of loneliness they caused. But all I managed was cold logic. "You ignored me my whole life. I'll do the same now." He called me vindictive, as if the irony didn't smell pungent in the air. But when I got home that night and Damien found me staring blankly at my phone, hands trembling, I admitted the truth. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. He told me I didn't have to decide anything yet. That gentleness was one reason I'd survived my family at all. 2 days later, my mother texted after spotting our magazine cover. "Proud of you, sweetheart. Let's reconnect." That was her first message to me in years. She even attached a smiling emoji as if a tiny yellow face could erase decades. Within hours, Victoria texted too. Then Jacob, and Aunt Patricia, of course, the queen of sympathy. None of them mentioned the past, only my success. The timing couldn't have been louder if they'd rented a billboard. Natasha read the text over my shoulder and muttered, "They've got the audacity of politicians." She was right. Something in me hardened. I decided the next thing they saw of me wouldn't be regretted, it'd be power. Biosynth was about to launch its biggest advancement yet. During the press interview, when asked who supported me, I listed everyone except my family. I talked about being excluded and how chosen family can heal what biology breaks. I didn't name names, but anyone who'd known my past could read between the lines. The article exploded. Headlines like "From Overlooked to Outstanding" fluttered news feeds. Messages poured in from strangers who'd been the family misfit, people crying in Demas about finally feeling seen. It was overwhelming and heartbreaking and weirdly healing. Until, of course, the original culprits noticed. My mother called 6 times in 1 hour. She left voicemails dripping with performative sorrow. You made us look terrible. Victimhood was her favorite outfit. And she wore it perfectly for the cameras days later, when she told a local news station I'd abandoned my dying father. The segment made me look monstrous cold, ungrateful, ruthless. Comments multiplied like mold. How can anyone ignore their sick parents? She'll regret this forever. I wanted to stay silent, but the anger simmering in my chest was louder than prudence. Still, anger without strategy is just chaos. So I waited. Silent. Collecting. Stephanie, Jacob's ex-wife, reached out privately. Turns out karma had delivered her a front-row seat to my family's hypocrisy. She shared screenshots of years of group chats filled with their laughter about my failures, including one from Victoria mocking my weird little startup. My mother's own messages bragged about excluding me to keep the family's image intact, the receipts piled like ammunition. Teachers remembered them ignoring every event I ever invited them to. Neighbors remembered comments that I didn't blend well with people. All the tiny truths they'd buried under charm were suddenly in my hands. When I handed everything to Beverly, the journalist who'd written my earlier profile, I told her, print the whole truth. No melodrama. Just facts. The article she produced was precise and devastating. My family's narrative collapsed on contact. Public sympathy flipped like a coin. People saw through them finally. Support flooded in, not because of revenge, but because so many understood what it feels like when your own blood treats you like a footnote. Did I feel satisfaction? Yes. Relief? Absolutely. Sadness, too. Weirdly, seeing them unravel publicly felt like watching a once unbreakable illusion dissolve in daylight. 6 weeks later came another text from Jacob. Quiet, desperate, dad's in hospice. Days left. Mom just wants you there. No cameras. I stared at the screen for hours. Damien found me outside, looking at the water turning orange under the sunset. Whatever you do, he said softly, make sure it's for you, not them. I realized forgiveness wasn't peace for me. It was permission for them. So I typed back, I made peace years ago. You should too. When my father died, I learned through social media. Mom wrote a long post about family rifts and unconditional love, collecting sympathy hearts from strangers who had no clue. I felt sadness, yes, but also a twisted sense of finality. You can't disappoint the dead. 3 months later, Victoria turned up again, clutching an envelope like it was salvation. Her life had crumbled, husband gone, home gone, Mom blaming her. I finally get it, she said, crying softly. Now I know how you felt. The empathy would have mattered if it weren't born from losing her own stability. I reminded her that understanding through suffering isn't the same as genuine remorse. She nodded, broken. The letters from Dad, she whispered. He wrote it before he died. I hesitated before opening it, expecting manipulation, maybe guilt. Instead, his shaky handwriting told the truth I'd waited my whole life to hear, that they'd erased me for the sake of appearances. That what they called protective was really pride. That he was sorry, proud, and ashamed in equal measure. It should have cracked something open in me. Instead, it just settled. Empty, but peaceful. Nothing could refill those missing years, but at least he'd stopped lying, even if too late. Life moved forward quietly after that. Biosynth hit phenomenal milestones. We went public. Forbes called us a revolution on legs, which made Damien laugh so hard he spilled coffee on the print edition. I started a discreet scholarship fund for young people cut off from their families, kids like Zoe, a 17-year-old who came up to me after a speech one day, shaking, saying my story kept her alive when hers kicked her out. I went home that night and cried. Not the painful kind, the grateful kind. 2 years later, a package arrived. A journal. My father's handwriting again. He documented his final year, apparently. The first pages were defensive nonsense. But gradually, the tones softened into painful awareness. He'd even attended one of my talks incognito. "She was shining," one line said. "We broke her, and she rebuilt herself brighter." I wept reading that. It didn't redeem him, but it proved I wasn't crazy all those years thinking something was wrong with their version of reality. The irony came later. Our next major discovery allowed pancreatic cancer to be detected almost 2 years earlier than existing methods. The disease that destroyed my father became the one our work could fight best. A cosmic loop of irony wrapped in mercy. I didn't take it as poetic justice. Closure, wearing a lab coat. One afternoon, while overlooking our new research facility in Vancouver, Damien asked what I was thinking. I told him the truth. How funny it is that the worst thing they ever did, making me invisible, is what forced me to build a life so bright they can't ignore it. He chuckled. "So you're grateful to them?" "Not grateful," I said, smiling softly. "But I see the gift hidden inside the hurt. They meant to diminish me, and all they did was forge me." And that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes the people who erase you end up giving you the clearest outline of who you are. You stop trying to fit into rooms that keep shrinking to exclude you, and start building your own damn house with glass walls. So no one can ever pretend you're not there again. If any part of my story lands somewhere in your own chest, if you've ever been made small by the people who should have loved you, biggest remember this: you don't need their permission to shine. Visibility isn't granted, it's claimed. Thanks for listening to my story. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone. And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Diary, where the quiet ones finally get to tell their side of the story.